cats, forget about it. I know they're rough. They're so rough. But, honestly, not many people have their cats photographed. What's an interesting statistic in the US is there are twice as many cats in households than dogs, or even more. What was the latest statistic? But anyway, if you think of all the different households, there's one dog to every 2 cats. But what's also interesting is those cats never go anywhere. So when I worked in the veterinary field, even though there's this massive amount of cats, 75% of our clients were dogs, even though the cats all needed the help too. Anyway, it's very interesting. Tenere accent. Getting the cat's attention is quite challenging. How did you get them? So what I've got, you could see this. Actually, this one is a pretty good representation. That's my table. The table setup. If you've seen, I have 2 videos here on YouTube on how to build this cat table, or this, opposing table, whatever. So Frank is off to the one side. He's usually off to that side. Today, we were very careful about, I put the light on my left and Frank on the right, because what happens is often I put the lights on the bank of kennels, like a little speed light. And then when it pops, Frank's shadow falls across the cat in the backdrop. So we rearranged it, just gave me a smaller space to work in. But, so then just to the other side. So Frank's on one side, the other side is a bank of kennels, which about a foot away. So these kittens are trying to run off the table all the time, Senior. Yaxon, because they just are. They're like coming towards me. Let's see if I can find another one. Because every once in a while I'll try to snap a picture, like, okay, they're coming towards me. And then like, they just about walked off the table, like right here. This mama kitty, she's like, hey, what's over here? Right. And so Frank's always right there, ready to like reset them. And he's got the magic wand trying to keep them occupied in that little space. If they're treat motivated, we put some treats in there, or catnip. So it's pretty difficult. If they were sleepy before this, we try to get pictures right away. You can see this kitten's about to get the magic wand that's right here. So they are constantly trying to walk off the table. So you need to have an assistant. I have tried to do cat photography without an assistant. Yeah. It is not easy. Actually, at one of the Humane Societies years ago that I volunteered at, they just could not find me an assistant, but they still wanted me there every single week. Like, it was this weird contract thing. Like, you have to come in every single week on the same day for 2 hours, blah, 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 blah. And this whole thing. And they had this really ridiculously long list that I would never be able to get through. And then they couldn't ever find me an assistant. Like, the assistants, either they couldn't find them, they wanted to do something else, they couldn't show up that day, but I still like showed up and I had to do stuff. Oh my gosh, it was terrible. So I would set up in one of their meet and greet rooms. I was there before they opened, which is fairly small, like smaller than this office. So probably like 8 by 8. And I would have to take a kennel, go all the way to the back, get a cat, put it in the kennel, bring it all the way into the room, have everything ready to go, and my camera sitting there ready to go, and then let the kitty out of the kennel onto whatever surface. Usually it was a table like the one you just saw, and then try to like keep them in the frame. And I'd have to have a shorter lens. There's no way I could use a 70-200 in that circumstance. So I'd have to have like a wider angle lens and be right there at the edge of the table. So I would kind of put them back, magic wand, click, magic wand, click. It didn't work. And honestly, it just did not work. I had one client last year. If you listen to the podcast, I tell this story of this cat that I photographed 2 weeks ago now, I guess, that Frank goes to these sessions with me now. And he went to this one because he's so good with cats. And she had told me this was a skittish cat. And oh my gosh, we were up and down the stairs and we had closed all the doors, but the cat could still get down the stairs to the bottom of the stairs to the landing. So we kept going up and down, like trying to convince the cat that it's so nice up here in this nice little space we'd made for it and whatever. And it took like an hour. And then finally, she ended up back in the room that she likes to stay in. And we got some pictures in there finally after over an hour. And that's with me and Frank and the owner all trying to like carefully, gently, just kind of like convince her that that place was where she wanted to be. But I tell you, 2 or 3 years before that, I'd taken a picture of her other kitten. Went perfect. It was just me. The owner had a hurt knee at the time, so she couldn't even help. I put the tabletop studio up. We put the vase of flowers there. Her little 5-month-old kitten just sat there and loved this whole experience. perfect photos. It's really difficult without an assistant. That's my long and short answer. But always like cats are very fast and they're very calculating. So like in this shelter situation, as soon as you open the kennel or put them on the table, they're like, oh yeah, freedom. We're gonna run. We're gonna get out of here. We're gonna go under the table. We're gonna go there. Da, 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 da. Your table set is only interesting for a moment. So we try to make it as extra interesting as we possibly can. And then sometimes, like Jordan, they usually help with these, but they had a Zoom meeting to get to. So sometimes I'll have Jordan, who's the marketing person, on one side, and then Frank on the other side of the table. And then I'm over here. So we're kind of surrounded the kitty. So that's also something that we try. Cat owners are reluctant and not willing to spend as much on cats. Yeah, it's interesting, right? And I think a lot of cat owners just assume that you'll never be able to photograph their cat. So there's that. Patty, you'll do cats? Yeah, I know, right? Yeah. So what's interesting is that I never even thought about it. I just did it. Uh, because when I first started, I didn't have my pet photography brand. I had just people photography brand. But once I retired from the veterinary hospital, I missed all the animals every day. And so I was driving around and found this shelter and said, hey, can I? And then when I found this cat shelter, I was like, hey, can I help you out? And I hadn't really photographed cats before, but I just went in and I was like, they need me. They need pictures of these cats so they could be adopted. Look at how many kitties there are. And I just did it. And so now I know how to do it. So it's a good training grounds, that's for sure. I used to know someone who did cat shows with his cats. I think he and maybe others who do cat shows would spend money on a portrait. Oh, cat shows. That could be. Yeah. Yeah, that'd be interesting. I don't even know how you get into that. Hmm. I guess it's just like any other show, right? You get to know the people running the show. You pay for a booth or they invite you in. And I suppose you do the photos right there. Interesting. I like it. I'm looking to make inroads with the state's Cat Fancier Society. That is who sponsors cat shows here. Ah, interesting. Cat Fancier Society. Let us know how that goes. Okay. Huh. LinkedIn could work with that. If you find the person who runs it on LinkedIn and send them a connection request, something like that, or an email. Cat Fancier Society. Patty, it appears the United Cat Club does cat shows. I think they may be like AKC all dog breed shows. Oh, okay. Interesting. I think it would kind of depend on how much you want to travel. Because I would assume like if you can get like Lisa was saying an inroads and once a year when that show comes to your city, maybe you're the contracted photographer for that. Or you could also do the business model where you follow shows around. Now you're going to see the same group of people. I'm thinking like if they're in Kansas City and then they're in Denver and then they're in Phoenix, like they make the circuit potentially. But I know there's a lot of like dog show photographers, horse show photographers, that's what they do. They pack everything up and they just follow all the different shows around and they are the contracted photographer at those events. If that's a kind of like environment you want to be in and everything, that's the way to go. Or you could just one-off it and every single year when they come to your city, you could do it that way. I'm not sure. I'd be curious to hear how you all are taking advantage of that. Sometimes that's just a really great conversation starter with people. They'll go, oh, what do you photograph? Dogs, cats, horses, cats. Are you serious? And then you get this whole conversation going. So sometimes that's all you need. It's just that's your little bit of your marketing, your stories. As always, I wish you many woofs, purrs, and TREATSs. Okay. All right. Bye, everybody. Good to see you. Goodbye.